In 2013, there was an evolution occurring, mostly thanks to the actions of Microsoft allowing more developers the opportunity to put their smaller, independent products on their platform. While more and more gamers were embracing the idea of smaller experiences for half to even a quarter of the price of a AAA title, there was still this want to innovate on levels unforeseen in gaming up to that point. A great example of developers working towards something dreamed of but never seen in a video game was State of Decay on the Xbox 360. Coming out just after the zombie genre in video games had reached its zenith, State of Decay proved to be a game based on people surviving through the zombie apocalypse, instead of focusing on smashing and shooting the heads of the undead, setting it apart from its contemporaries in the best way possible. State of Decay's success convinced the developers to keep working while Microsoft wisely looked to help produce and promote the game's sequel. Having enjoyed the original so much, and its DLC offerings, I found myself incredibly excited about the sequel that promised to be everything the first was, but better, by offering more base building options, dynamic survivors, and a different type of enemy that changes the entire dynamic of the gameplay. Undead Labs released the first State of Decay with the idea in mind that killing zombies can be fun for only so long. What if the player was given the chance to control a growing group of survivors in their quest to, well, survive? The original game's formula of letting a player control one of several survivors at a time, build up a home base to live in, and search out resources, all the while helping strangers, killing Zeds, and potentially finding a way to restore society, still runs through this iteration, with a few alterations that are quickly explained in the game's tutorial, while other gameplay additions like vehicles needing gas to operate are left to the player to discover on their own. With a story loosely tying everything the player does together, I progress through the game with a leader looking to restore the sanctity of civilization, achieving his goal after 15 in-game days of survival and 20 plus hours of actual playtime, where yours truly completed a majority of the achievements, built a pair of highly functional bases, and witnessed a few people die because of the game's ruthlessness and inclusion of permanent death for characters both controllable and NPCs. I began a new game shortly after concluding my first playthrough to see what can occur differently in a new map featuring another type of leader. Not much is actually different, including the various random missions, unfortunately. Like many entertainment mediums, video games have become greatly associated with slaying the living dead, but never before had a console game requested the player to focus less on bashing heads and more about survival through fortification and human alliances than State of Decay. And that's what makes the experience then and now stand out so much. The player is given the opportunity to choose one of three maps to settle inside these multiple home bases located per area, before scavenging for randomly generated resources by finding glowing boxes to slowly search through, while always looking over your shoulder for the undead that are around no matter what, even if the place of interest looks completely clear. Mysterious spawning of enemies occurs a lot in this game. When a Zed needs to be taken down, the character can run out of breath if he or she runs too long, or dodges too much, repeatedly swings a weapon without pausing between attempted strikes, or is encumbered by the amount of items stuffed into their backpack. Driving features a unique option of opening doors when moving, giving the player a chance to kill incoming enemies without stopping, a la the movie Zombieland. Shooting is an available option to splatter a monster's head, but doing so will send out a resonating sound that, as expected, can attract the undead, as do thrown explosives like grenades and firecrackers. One of the most interesting aspects of State of Decay returns here, in regards to character progression, as whatever that character does constantly raises a specific stat, be it fighting, stealth, wits, when searching for resources, or cardio. Maxing out a certain stat will open up new options and abilities, making the implementation of permanent deaths for characters even more distressing, because losing a character in the middle of a fight could prove to be detrimental to the player's entire community. Also connected to each playable survivor is the addition of traits and backstories. The randomly generated survivors all differ when it comes to personalities, as some will be calm in situations while others might start arguments, meaning they may be a benefit or a detriment to a player's community. But no matter how tough and buff the characters are, no matter how fortified a shelter is, there's always a genuine feeling of danger looming. Not only do enemies vary from regular Zeds to gigantic body-tearing behemoths, they also form formidable hordes that can overwhelm a well-armed group in a single bound. A big addition to the game compared to the first is the blood plague zombies. These red-eyed enemies can attack and cause survivors to become infected to the point a timer comes onto the screen, alerting the player how much time that character has before they die. Introduced early in the game is a cure for the blood plague, as well as a way to clear the map of these horrific monsters by destroying blood plague hearts that are formidable in nature due to both its large unseen health bar and blood plague Zeds that show up in mass when the heart is being attacked. While the blood plague and zombies and plague hearts are nice additions to make things more difficult and tense, it essentially becomes just another meter to manage. Base building in State of Decay focused on finding pre-made sites like a church or an abandoned carnival, and constructing various facilities like gardens or infirmaries returns here as well. Unlike other games featuring home creation tools, State of Decay 2 doesn't allow a player's mind to run wild in creating the zombie fortress of their dreams, as each home base has a predetermined amount of spots to build things upon, with the true planning and strategy coming from what the community wants and needs to do to make it a great living space. Depending on how much the player builds and how many people occupy the living space will attract Zeds due to how loud things get. The lack of flexibility in regards to base building will definitely leave unaware gamers wanting more, but original State of Decay players will easily jump back into the groove. One removal from the core gameplay is the game does sleep when someone isn't playing, unlike the original where everything moved on alongside real time. But there is still no pausing in game. For all the stuff that changed or didn't, nothing compares to the addition of co-op. By sending out a request, a player can either host a session for up to 3 people to join, or that player can become a helper themselves. In single-player mode, the player has the opportunity to enlist a follower to help protect them when traversing a map, though the buddy AI is lacking and downright stupid at times. In co-op mode, the player or players joining a game become controlled followers, looking to help out the host in doing everything someone would in single player. The follower players in co-op can only take what their characters brought with them, protecting the host's resources, though any action counts toward their survivor's progress in regards to stats, and when exiting co-op, reward resources. Due to the way co-op is set up, it feels a lot less rewarding for random players, while potentially being a fun experience if someone has dedicated friends who have no problem giving one player everything while the others just enjoy helping out. One of the biggest weak points about State of Decay was its lacking story. The original iteration saw its plot become a way to simply move players from one site to another. While that aspect of State of Decay doesn't return in regards to the narrative by leaving the option of upgrading living quarters to the player, there are goals for the player to complete that will lead to one of the 4 endings depending on what type of leader the player assigns to head their community, be it sheriff, builder, trader, or warlord. Between clearing the map of plague hearts and performing random quests for the characters in the community, there are survivors and enclaves constantly asking for help, with the potential of gaining more resources or allies. Ignoring the cries for help can turn fellow communities against the players. or simply they will leave town. The Enclave system is lacking in regards to handling how quickly people don't like the gamer's community, but a friendly group of allies can definitely be of great assistance when needing resources while on the road. For all the improvements and additions, State of Decay 2 doesn't rid itself of the original's flaws regarding performance issues. Beyond the subpar, even 7th generation graphics that barely look better than what was seen in the first game, Decay 2 suffers from a mixture of frame rate drops and glitches, with the latter being the biggest offender. Glitches can range from moments such as a vehicle getting unreasonably stuck on an object to characters falling through floors. With permanent death, the chance of a character dying because the game messed up is something that can and probably will happen to a majority of players. Glitches got progressively worse when moving around the map and leaving the original home base. For every good thing State of Decay 2 has that improves upon the foundation set by the first game, there's a flaw that makes it frustrating, no matter how much someone loves the formula that makes this game a one-of-a-kind experience. State of Decay 2 does have so-so graphics, can get repetitive, be overbearing and glitchy at times, but just like the original iteration, State of Decay 2 is fun on a primal level of bashing zombies in the head, blowing up formidable hordes, and taking down a juggernaut. But its community building is the real draw, as the player will have to decide what to do and when to do it to benefit this small section of society clinging to life. From a narrative standpoint, State of Decay 2 lacks even more so than the original. The gameplay is pretty much identical from what came before it, and some of the additions like Blood Plague don't improve in making the game any more or less entertaining. Co-op is definitely fun, but lacks the incentive for players joining games or reason to play for more than a couple of hours. While State of Decay 2 is a budget title, it still feels like something that should be rented rather than bought by those who either didn't experience or enjoy the first game. Spending $10 on Xbox Game Pass and giving this game a trial run is definitely the best way to see if State of Decay 2 is worth your time in full. Fans of the original game will find everything they enjoyed from the first one just a little bit better without it doing much else.
Give that screamer a chance to yell. Are you trying to kill me?